Hi there, it's Deborah Irene coming to you today for story time. I haven't told you a story for a couple of months, so I hope you've missed me. I want to continue today with stories and lessons my mother taught me. A lot of people have enjoyed hearing things and being reminded of things that my mother said and the things that she told me. So I was thinking this week because I remembered a dream I had many years ago. I remember how my mother taught me to always pay attention to my dreams. Now, I understand that sometimes we have silly dreams just because of things that went on in the day, and they really don't have any meaning. They're probably just a mishmash of everything going on in our brain. But sometimes God can speak to us through dreams. Sometimes we can understand things or bring understanding. We can think through things as we sleep. And I've shared with you here on Story Time about the time I had a dream I could ice skate backwards, and it's also in my book, Someday I Will Write. And I did it in my sleep, and sure enough, the next morning I woke up and I could do it. Sometimes God speaks to us through our dreams, and it behooves us to pay attention when He does and to know if it's from Him. And that's something that my mother taught me. In her book, Helen's Heritage, we started off by telling a remarkable story about a vision she had. Now, I've never had a vision where something was shown to me when I was wide awake, but I have had many dreams. My mother was fortunate to have both, and I encourage you, if you haven't read Helen's Heritage, to get the book and read about her visions because it's pretty remarkable. Sometimes she would call me or my sisters up and want to share a dream she had had because it was so heavy on her heart. She was trying to understand the meaning. And I've been there too, where I've pondered things. Sometimes things are disturbing because we're trying to figure them out. And, sometimes dreams can be rejoice. We can rejoice in them. They can be happy dreams. So she did teach me to pay attention to my dreams. In my book, Reflections, in the very first chapter where I'm talking about myself, I talk about the very first dream that I remember having that was significant. And in this dream, I'll just read this short little chapter to you here. I start out by saying, she is a woman of dreams. And I'm talking about Deborah. She once had a dream of a beautiful wide staircase leading up into the heavens before her. The stairs were pearly white, and on every other step on both sides stood an angel. Everything was white with a touch of gold. The staircase reached up as far as she could see into the sky, curving to the right at the very top and continuing beyond the reach of her vision. Although she could not see the end of the staircase, she knew the pearly white stairs led to those gates of pearl, the residence of God. She never found words to adequately describe the sound that must have been angels singing. She turned to her sister who was standing beside her and said, "Bye, I'm going to heaven." Her sister did not understand, could not see the staircase, and quite frankly thought Deborah had lost her mind. Why would a young, introverted girl under the age of 10 have such a dream? To this day, she remembers it like she dreamed it last night. That is the first dream that I ever had that I felt was a spiritual dream and a dream with meaning. That's one example. I've had many dreams throughout my lifetime. In fact, on my list of books that I would like to write, I've thought about writing one just about my dreams, and maybe I'll do that someday. But I would like to share with you today a dream I was reminded of that I had several years ago that I've never written about. Now, this is going to cause me to go back to some of my other stories. As I have written in my book Reflections and in Someday I Will Write, there is a chapter in Someday I Will Write titled Keep the Faith. And that is a story about one of my sons and how I had to learn to walk in faith for him over the years. In my book Reflections, I talk about walking through that period of time when I had to have faith for me because he had had a cancer diagnosis, and I had to have faith for him, faith for his health, and faith for me just to put one foot in front of the other and continue to live my life and be there for my family, even though we were walking through this tragedy. And I talk about how the word faith kept coming back to me. I talk about the ring of faith, how this ended up being a symbol for me during those years when I was worrying, those first couple of years. I bought this as a symbol so that if my mind started wandering and worrying about what the future might hold, I could look at this and realize we have to have faith. We already had faith for his healing, but we had to have faith that God would take care of us no matter what the future hold, that he had the future in the palm of his hand, and we had to trust him with that. The word faith was also important during that time. That had to do with a puppy that he bought, and it was a husky puppy, and he wanted to name her Faith. And Faith, this dog, also became part of the symbol of faith. She was so important to him just as his pet, but she was important to me because of the name that was chosen. This all happened around the same time in 2008 when he was 19 years old. So he sent me this picture of her before he picked her up, of this little puppy, and she had the most beautiful blue eyes and was a fur ball, white and black, and had those markings around her eyes. She just became that symbol too of faith, just another symbol of faith with her name. I had a dream after he had had her for a few months, and in that dream I dreamed that we were traveling in a vehicle on a mountain road in Colorado, one of those roads where there's no guard railings and they're windy, but the scenery is beautiful. On this one road that I traveled one time like that, periodically there would be a spot in the road where you could pull over and just park the car and be out of the lane of traffic. So in my dream, I dreamed that I had done that. I had pulled off the side of the road, and for some reason we all got out to stretch our legs, and Faith was with us, and we had a ball, and somebody started tossing the ball to her, and on one of the tosses it went over the mountain or over the cliff. And if you've been on any of those roads, you know how scary they can be in a vehicle. I mean, no guardrail and one little slip and you would fall, thousands of feet down with no hope for survival. And in my dream, I dreamed it was like a tennis ball, and we threw it and it went over the edge, and she started chasing the ball, and when she got to the edge she didn't stop, and I remember gasping that, oh my gosh, Faith's gone over the cliff. And I went to the edge to look over, just expecting to see her tumbling to the bottom. And it was really strange because she had put all four legs out and the ball was long gone, and she had sprawled all four legs out, and she was literally floating like she was on a parachute, just kind of floating. And I said, oh my gosh, she's going to be okay. She's going to be okay. You know, and that was the end of the dream. I believe she was okay, but the dream ended there. And I felt that dream at the time was just another reassurance to me from God that He's going to be okay and everything's going to be okay. Another way for Him to show me to trust Him, to have faith that He's going to take care of us no matter what happens. I kept that dream in my heart and thought someday I might write about it. I haven't yet, but I'm telling you about it. And the reason I was reminded of that dream this week is because I visited my son recently, who now lives in San Antonio. And I happened to be there when the big snow and ice storm came, which was unprecedented. I did get stranded. And the night of the first cumulative snow, I went to sleep knowing it might snow. And when I woke up the next morning, I looked out the window. And my son had already awakened and had let Faith out. Now, anybody that knows anything about huskies, you've got to know that Faith has probably been miserable in San Antonio. And to have something like snow come, although the rest of us were stranded, and it was hard for that area to cope with the demands on the power, the husky was in hog heaven. There was snow, and Faith, now 13 years old, she's getting on in years. It's hard for her to walk, and to see her run around and play in that snow was incredible. It was refreshing. My daughter-in-law took some pictures and sent them to me, and I want to show you one now because this reminds me of my dream even more. I hope that you can see this. This is Faith, but what I want to point out is how her legs are spread apart there. And this is what reminded me so much of the dream I had. This is a great action shot where she's stopped. She was playing with her other dog, brother and sister, but you can tell it's an action shot. And she was just like a puppy again. And the way her legs are spread out there is just the way they were spread out in my dream, where she was miraculously floating down easily and going to be set down easily on the ground as she was parachuting, the invisible parachute. And this picture reminds me so much of that dream. You know, it made me pause and be thankful for 13 years. 13 good years. I'm very thankful that God has been faithful and that He will continue to be faithful and He will be there for us no matter what. And I am so thankful that my mother taught me to pay attention to my dreams. I try to remember to write them down if I have one that is significant like that when I wake up in the morning. And then it's so awesome to go back and read about it later. So I encourage you, pay attention to your dreams. I ask you, is God trying to tell you something? Pay attention. This is Deborah Irene coming to you with stories and lessons my mother taught me. I hope you have a great day.